5 more maritime mysteries. 1. The Rainbow Warrior. The Rainbow Warrior was a Greenpeace flagship that became the center of a massive international controversy in 1985 when it was sunk by the French intelligence service, the DGSE, General Directorate for External Security, in Auckland, New Zealand. Launched in 1955 as a fishing trawler named Sir William Hardy, the ship was later acquired by Greenpeace in 1977 and renamed the Rainbow Warrior. It became a symbol of Greenpeace's environmental activism, particularly in its protests against nuclear testing and whaling. The ship played a major role in protesting against French nuclear tests in the Pacific. In 1985, Greenpeace planned to use the Rainbow Warrior to lead a flotilla of boats to the French testing zone at Mururoa Atoll. To prevent this, the French government authorized an operation to sabotage the ship. On July 10, 1985, DGSE agents planted 2 bombs on the ship's hull while it was docked in Auckland. The first bomb exploded, and as the crew evacuated, a second, more powerful blast sank the ship. Greenpeace photographer Fernando Pereira, who had returned to the ship to retrieve his equipment, was killed in the explosion. Theories. French government's motives. The official reason for the sabotage was to prevent Greenpeace from interfering with French nuclear tests. France had been conducting nuclear tests in the Pacific since the 1960s, but by the 1980s, international opposition to these tests was growing. Greenpeace's activism threatened to draw global attention to France's continued nuclear activities, and the French government feared that this would lead to increased diplomatic pressure to end the tests. Botched intelligence operation. The sinking of the Rainbow Warrior is widely considered to be one of the most embarrassing blunders in the history of the DGSE. French intelligence had initially planned for the bombs to disable the ship without causing any casualties. However, the operation was poorly executed, and the death of Fernando Pereira turned the sabotage into a murder case, sparking outrage and a major international scandal. Public reaction and diplomatic fallout. The sinking of the Rainbow Warrior led to a massive diplomatic rift between France and New Zealand. Initially, the French government denied involvement, but as evidence mounted, it became clear that the DGSE was responsible. 2 agents, Dominique Prieur and Alan Maffar, were arrested in New Zealand and eventually sentenced to prison for their roles in the bombing. The French government was forced to pay compensation to Greenpeace and the Pereira family and issued an official apology to New Zealand. Legacy. The Rainbow Warrior incident is considered one of the most significant events in the history of environmental activism. The ship's sinking galvanized global support for Greenpeace and anti-nuclear movements. In 1986, France stopped its nuclear testing in the Pacific. The wreck of the Rainbow Warrior was towed to Matauri Bay, New Zealand, where it now serves as an artificial reef and a popular dive site. The sinking also remains a powerful reminder of the lengths governments may go to protect their interests, regardless of the cost. 2. The Norseman. The Norseman was a British steamship that disappeared without a trace in the Irish Sea in November 1867. Built in 1854, the Norseman was a wooden-hulled steamship used for both passenger and cargo transport between England and Ireland. On November 26, 1867, the ship departed from Liverpool for Dublin with 29 crew members and several passengers on board. It was last sighted off Holyhead, Wales, but then vanished, never to be seen again. Despite extensive searches, no wreckage or bodies were ever recovered. The disappearance of the Norseman became one of the most perplexing maritime mysteries of the 19th century, as it occurred in relatively calm weather in a well-traveled area of the Irish Sea. Many theories have been proposed over the years, but none have definitively explained the fate of the Norseman. Theories. Foundering in a storm. Although the weather was reported to be relatively calm when the Norseman set sail, some reports suggest that a sudden squall could have struck the ship as it approached Dublin. A violent storm could have overwhelmed the vessel, causing it to capsize or break apart. However, this theory has been questioned due to the lack of debris or bodies found in the aftermath of the ship's disappearance. Collision with another ship. One possibility is that the Norseman collided with another vessel in the busy waters of the Irish Sea. Such collisions were not uncommon at the time, and if the Norseman had been struck by a larger ship, it could have sunk quickly without leaving much trace. However, no reports of a collision were filed by any other ships in the area, leaving this theory unproven. Mechanical failure. Another theory is that the Norseman suffered a catastrophic mechanical failure, such as a boiler explosion. Steamships of the 19th century were prone to such disasters, and if the ship's boiler had exploded, it could have caused the Norseman to sink rapidly. However, no evidence of an explosion was ever found, and this remains speculative. Legacy. The Norseman remains one of the great unsolved mysteries of maritime history. The ship's disappearance in one of the busiest waterways in the world, without a trace, continues to baffle historians and maritime experts. The story of the Norseman is a haunting reminder of the perils of sea travel in the 19th century, even in areas close to shore. 3. The Pomona. The Pomona was a wooden-hulled steamship that sank in Lake Erie on October 20, 1857. The ship was part of the bustling trade routes that connected the Great Lakes with cities like Detroit and Buffalo. On the night of October 19, 1857, the Pomona was carrying passengers and cargo when it encountered a violent storm. The ship fought through high winds and massive waves but eventually foundered and sank. Only a few survivors managed to escape in lifeboats, while the majority of passengers and crew perished in the freezing waters. The exact number of casualties remains uncertain, but it is estimated that around 30 to 40 people lost their lives. The wreck of the Pomona was discovered decades later, lying in the murky depths of Lake Erie, still mostly intact. Theories. Storm conditions. The most likely cause of the sinking was the violent storm that swept across Lake Erie on the night of the disaster. Eyewitness accounts from survivors describe how the ship was buffeted by powerful winds and waves, and it's believed that the ship's hull may have been breached by the relentless pounding of the storm. Overloading. Some reports suggest that the Pomona may have been carrying too much cargo, which made the ship top-heavy and more prone to capsizing in rough weather. If the cargo shifted during the storm, it could have destabilized the ship, contributing to its eventual sinking. Lack of lifeboats. One of the criticisms of the Pomona disaster was the inadequate number of lifeboats. Many passengers were left without a means of escape as the ship went down, leading to a higher death toll. This tragedy highlighted the need for better safety regulations on passenger ships, although such reforms were slow to come. Legacy. The sinking of the Pomona was a significant tragedy in the history of Lake Erie shipping and served as a reminder of the dangers of navigating the Great Lakes, especially during the stormy autumn months. The wreck remains a popular dive site today, and its story continues to be remembered in the annals of Great Lakes maritime history. 4. The HMS Bounty. The HMS Bounty is one of the most famous ships in naval history due to the infamous mutiny that occurred aboard the vessel in 1789. Commanded by Lieutenant William Bligh, the Bounty was a small British Royal Navy ship tasked with transporting breadfruit plants from Tahiti to the West Indies. The mission was intended to provide a cheap food source for enslaved people working on British plantations. However, during the voyage, tensions between Bligh and his crew reached a boiling point. Bligh was known for his harsh discipline, and many of the crew grew resentful of his leadership. After spending several months in Tahiti, where the crew enjoyed relative freedom and the pleasures of island life, a group of sailors led by Fletcher Christian staged a mutiny. They seized the ship, set Bligh and his loyalists adrift in a small boat, and returned to Tahiti. Bligh, in an extraordinary feat of navigation, managed to lead his small boat over 3,600 miles to safety. Meanwhile, Christian and the mutineers eventually settled on Pitcairn Island, where they lived in isolation for years before being discovered. Theories. Bligh's leadership style. The most commonly accepted theory for the mutiny is that Bligh's authoritarian leadership style pushed the crew to rebel. Historical records suggest that Bligh was known for his harsh discipline and frequent outbursts of anger. Many of the crew members, particularly Christian, had grown increasingly frustrated with Bligh's strict rules and lack of empathy. After spending several months in Tahiti, where the crew experienced a carefree lifestyle, returning to Bligh's command was too much to bear. The contrast between the idyllic life in Tahiti and the rigid discipline on the Bounty likely contributed to the mutiny. Tahiti's influence. Some historians believe that the crew's time in Tahiti played a significant role in the mutiny. The sailors had formed relationships with the local women and enjoyed a relaxed lifestyle far removed from the rigors of life at sea. When Bligh ordered the crew to leave Tahiti and resume their journey, many were reluctant to leave and viewed Christian's mutiny as a way to return to their newfound paradise. Fletcher Christian's struggles. Another theory suggests that Christian, who was initially loyal to Bligh, was grappling with his own personal issues. Some historians have speculated that Christian may have been suffering from depression or a crisis of identity. The pressure of his responsibilities and Bligh's treatment of him could have pushed him to a breaking point, leading to his decision to seize the ship. Legacy. The HMS Bounty mutiny became one of the most famous naval incidents in history, spawning numerous books, films, and scholarly debates. Bligh's remarkable journey to safety cemented his reputation as one of the finest navigators of his time, though his legacy as a leader remains controversial. Meanwhile, the descendants of the mutineers still live on Pitcairn Island today, and the story of the Bounty continues to captivate audiences around the world. 5. The I-52. The I-52 was a Japanese submarine that gained international attention due to its mysterious disappearance and the cargo it was rumored to be carrying. Launched in 1943, the I-52 was one of Japan's advanced Type C-3 cargo submarines, designed to transport war materials and supplies between Japan and its Axis allies, particularly Nazi Germany. In 1944, the I-52 was tasked with a secret mission to deliver raw materials, including gold, to Nazi Germany in exchange for advanced technology and war supplies. The submarine set sail from Japan with a large amount of gold bars stored in its hull, intended for delivery to the German government. However, the I-52 never completed its mission. On June 23, 1944, it was sunk by American aircraft in the Atlantic Ocean, about 1,000 miles off the coast of West Africa. The submarine, along with its crew and cargo, disappeared into the depths. The wreck of the I-52 was discovered in 1995, lying at a depth of over 17,000 feet. Although the wreck was heavily damaged, investigators confirmed that the submarine was carrying a significant amount of gold, though not all of the rumored treasure has been located. Theories. American submarine warfare. The most widely accepted explanation for the sinking of the I-52 is that it was targeted and destroyed by the U.S. Navy as part of a broader effort to intercept Japanese supply ships during World War II. The American Navy had developed advanced submarine detection methods, and the I-52 was tracked by Allied forces as it made its way across the Atlantic. The submarine was ultimately sunk by a combination of depth charges and torpedoes from American aircraft. Mystery of the missing gold. Although the wreck of the I-52 was discovered, much of the gold it was rumored to be carrying has not been recovered. Some researchers believe that the gold may still be buried within the wreckage, while others suggest that it could have been looted by Allied forces after the submarine sank. The mystery of the missing gold has fueled numerous treasure hunting expeditions over the years, though none have been able to conclusively locate it. Technology exchange with Nazi Germany. Another interesting aspect of the I-52 mission was its role in the exchange of technology between Japan and Nazi Germany. Documents recovered from the wreck suggest that the submarine was carrying critical war materials, including blueprints for advanced German radar systems and jet engines. Had the I-52 completed its mission, it could have provided Japan with significant technological advancements that might have impacted the course of the war. Legacy. The sinking of the I-52 remains a fascinating chapter in World War II history, combining elements of warfare, espionage, and treasure hunting. The discovery of the wreck in the 1990s reignited interest in the submarine, particularly due to the rumors of lost gold. However, the full story of the I-52 may never be known, as much of its cargo and the details of its mission remain hidden beneath the ocean's depths. Conclusion. These ships, each with their unique stories, serve as reminders of the dangers, mysteries, and historical significance of maritime ventures. From the political sabotage of the Rainbow Warrior to the treasure-laden journey of the I-52, each ship's tale offers a glimpse into the human drama and intrigue that unfolds on the high seas. Whether driven by political motives, environmental activism, or wartime necessity, these vessels left lasting legacies and deep mysteries that continue to captivate and inspire. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this deep dive into these maritime mysteries, please like this video, subscribe to the channel, and hit the notification bell to stay updated with more historical explorations.